Hey there, guys, you just can't imagine what I'm going to show you today. Today we're going to talk about syringes that are not yet in Melon Playground, but that could completely turn the game around. These will be the craziest, coolest, and probably the most dangerous syringes you could ever dream of. And who knows, maybe the developers will actually add them in a future update. So get comfortable, like it, and let's get started. The first syringe I want to start with is called the slow time syringe, or, more simply, the time slow syringe. The idea is just incredibly cool. Imagine standing on a map with all the chaos around you, explosions, bullets, and fire, and injecting Melon with this syringe, causing everything to freeze. Everything becomes super slow, like in a movie shot in slow motion. Grenades explode slowly, pieces fly in different directions, and you can calmly walk around and admire the beauty of it all. You can have epic battles in slow motion. For example, give one Melon a slow motion syringe and another one a regular one, and you'll have a battle like between a Flash and a regular person. Now, imagine if this syringe worked not only on one character, but on the entire map. So, you inject it into one Melon, and everything around them starts moving slower. Cars, explosions, turrets, even drops of blood. It would be like a syringe god. I'm sure if the developers had actually added this mechanic, Melon Playground would have become the most cinematic game on mobile devices. But let's move on to the second syringe, the big growth syringe. This syringe makes the Melon gigantic, turning it into a massive mutant capable of destroying anything in its path. Once injected, the Melon begins to grow rapidly. Initially, it starts at a normal height, but as it grows, it becomes taller than cars and even buildings. The larger it becomes, the stronger its punches become, causing significant damage. Imagine being a regular Melon when suddenly, this giant appears with fiery eyes, massive arms, and the ability to send you flying into space with a single strike. This is perfect for videos and experiments. You can even make a battle, a giant against a dozen small Melons, or a giant against a tank. And now, pay attention if you combine this syringe with others. For example, if you inject a growth syringe and then a fire syringe, you'll create a massive fire monster. Alternatively, if you add a cold syringe, you'll have an icy giant that freezes everything around it. There are countless combinations you can create, and each one would be absolutely stunning. I believe these syringes are what make the game truly alive, as they offer endless possibilities for experimentation. The third syringe I want to show you is called the reverse syringe, or the reverse action syringe, and this is where things get interesting. This syringe does the opposite of what it's supposed to do. For example, if a regular syringe heals, this one will hurt. If a syringe slows down, this one will speed up. If you inject it into a dead Melon, it might come back to life, but with some strange glitches. Imagine having your body move backwards, your arm spinning in the opposite direction, and your sounds rewound. Perfect for creepy videos and experiments. For example, you can take two Melons and give one a regular syringe and the other a reverse syringe. Then you can watch how they interact. One will heal, while the other will break. One will speed up, while the other will slow down. If you inject both syringes at once, you won't know what will happen. Maybe their bodies will start vibrating, as if the game is about to explode. Players love these moments. And now the fourth syringe is the teleport syringe, the teleportation syringe. This is definitely something that all fans are looking forward to. It's not just an effect, it's a whole new mechanic. When you inject this syringe into Melon, he starts blinking and disappearing from one location, only to reappear in another. For example, you're standing on a map, shooting at him, and suddenly he vanishes and reappears behind you. Or you could make a joke, put two Melons together, give them both the same syringe, and they'll start teleporting places with each other. Now, imagine if you could control the teleport point. For example, you could place a special beacon, and the syringe would transport you to that location. This would allow for the creation of mini-games in Melon Playground, such as teleportation battles where Melons move around the arena at the speed of light. If you combine the teleport with a growth or fire syringe, you could create an incredibly powerful character, a massive teleporting giant who appears behind their enemies and defeats them with a single strike. It would be nothing short of legendary. The fifth syringe that I think should be in the game is the cloning syringe. Imagine this, you inject it into any NPC, and a few seconds later, an exact copy of that NPC appears next to you. But the cool part is that this clone doesn't just stand still, it replicates the original's movements. For example, if you set fire to a melon, its clone will also catch fire, even if it's on the other side of the map. Or, let's say, one melon falls, and its double falls in the same way, with the same movements. It would look super cool and a little creepy, especially if you made a dozen of these clones, an army of identical melons repeating all the movements like a reflection in a mirror. But now imagine what would happen if you injected this syringe into a turret instead of a human. Yes, cloning turrets. For example, you placed a regular turret, injected it with the cloning syringe, and it began creating copies of itself around it. Each copy shoots, moves, and even rotates synchronously, as if they were controlled by a single brain. This would be a true weapon of mass chaos. Now, imagine injecting the cloning syringe into a clone. The game just can't handle it. A fierce bug fest begins, the screen shakes, and hundreds of identical melons appear around, filling the entire space. It's precisely such moments that players adore for their chaos and unpredictability. And now the sixth syringe, which I think would be just legendary, Reality Breaker Syringe, or the Reality of Destruction Syringe. It's not just a syringe, it's something like the final boss among all the syringes. When you injected it, something strange begins to happen to the character. The picture jerks, the textures begin to break, the sounds are distorted, as if the game itself cannot stand what is happening. Melon can change color, the body will begin to stretch, and then, to hover in the air, as if it is no longer held by gravity. Sometimes he can even split into, or suddenly disappear, only to reappear a few seconds later in a different place. This syringe could work as a randomizer. Each use would have a completely different effect. One time, Melon would become a giant, another time, he would become invisible, and the third time, he would simply disappear, leaving behind a flash and a strange glitch on the screen. It would be as if the game's code itself was breaking, and the player was entering a different level of reality. It's terrifying to imagine what would happen if this syringe were injected into multiple characters in a row. It could lead to a visual explosion, where everything on the map would start melting and flickering. And that's it, guys. We've just introduced 6 new syringes that could completely transform Melon Playground and make the game even crazier than it already is. That's all for now, guys. Thank you to everyone who made it to the end. You're true legends.